Howdy, folks. I'm a flashy house finch, festooned in fanciful fineries for feathered friends.
I'm Amber.
And here are more fineries like cars for us to drive in for our feathered friends. Amber apparently gave away my other car. Now I have to drive in this one.
The car he's speaking about is I had a little mini Mickey Mouse car, so...
If I bring it close enough to the camera, then it'll be big enough for me to drive in. So the closer I get it to the camera, the more likely it is that I'll be able to drive this as a vehicle.
Yeah, I don't think that's quite how it works.
Let's get started. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing to Pay to Fix My Girlfriend's Car? I'm a 30-year-old male, and I was staying at my girlfriend, a 29-year-old female's place for a week while she was abroad to look after her cats. She told me that I could use her car for groceries or anything that I needed, as I don't own a car, as I live in the city center where it's not needed. She never specified which car. She has a newer Audi A4 and an old 98 Toyota Supra. I just used the old car as I did not want to deal with all the electronics in the new one. When she came back a few days later, she claimed that her old car was acting funny and vibrating and not steering properly and asked if I'd used it. She then claimed that she expected me to have used the newer car, even though she never said so before. I told her that it seemed fine when I used it, which was true. However, now she went through the dash cam in the car and noticed that on the last day, I had a little fun doing some spins in a field. However, this was a fairly flat field and not an off-road trail, and the car drove fine after that. It was for like 15 minutes tops. I refused, as I find this really unfair, and there's no way that 15 minutes did anything. And it drove well after that, so it was either going to fail anyways, or she did something to it. Besides, it's a really old car, and she could probably buy an older used car for the price of fixing it. She claims that the car was kept in like new condition and always serviced, but this sounds unlikely, or the shop cheated her. Alright folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk?
Yeah, I think Opie's the jerk here. I mean, I think most adults are well aware that spinning cars around in fields is not necessarily going to be good on the car's, health.
Yeah. So, here's the thing, is that she noticed something was up with the car and asked you if you had used it. Turns out that you did use it. And you also used it in a way that it was not intended to be used.
Right. It's very clear that when she said you could use it, she didn't mean go spin around in fields. It was to run errands.
Yeah. She told you that you could use it for grabbing groceries or whatever, but she didn't tell you to go and horseplay in it. And I think that it was really rude to do to somebody else's property.
She probably wasn't expecting it either. I feel like if the driver is not a teenager, you probably shouldn't have to specify don't do donuts in fields.
Yeah. And she might also be more attuned to how the car is supposed to feel if it's a car that she drives pretty often. Whereas OP here might have felt like the car drove fine, but it was actually not in the way that she was expecting it to drive.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that, I know that OP says this was for 15 minutes. And while a field might be relatively flat, I think also he was probably putting a lot of stress on the steering wheel if he was doing, spins and whatnot. So that's going to put some extra, pressure on the hydraulics and everything else. So I think that OP might not be aware of how much damage that this could do in 15 minutes.
Well, that's the thing, is anytime you use a car, there is a possibility of you're going to do some wear and tear. Every single use, even the most mundane use. But if you, use it for more extraneous stuff, it's going to exacerbate the wear and tear.
Yeah, and the thing is that also, if OP was willing to take this out the last day and drive it around this rough, then what's to say that he didn't drive it around rough for the other days, right? So he might not have been really gentle on it. He might have done a lot of extra wear and tear on it that OP wasn't expecting. OP certainly didn't drive this in the specified or expected way, and in that particular case, I think that OP should put money towards the repairs of the vehicle. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for telling my wife that I told you so after she ended up picking up the wrong job offer? I'm a 35-year-old male, and I'm a senior software engineer, and my wife, a 26-year-old female, is also a software engineer. 5 months ago, she got laid off from her job and began searching again. She was lucky and quickly got 2 offers from different companies. I advised her to pick the first one because it was a mid-sized company and several years old and doing quite well. But she claimed that the job seemed boring and complained that she would be the only woman on the team there, even though there was no indication whatsoever that any of the men working there were bad in any way. The other offer, which she accepted, was a newer company of only 2 years and was founded by 2 women. I felt that while the idea and product that they were creating was really good, they put too much marketing into being woman-owned, as if that makes them better, and they tried to hire a lot of women and had a disproportionately high number of women engineers compared to most companies, almost like 40%. This would be fine if their product was fashion-related or period products or tracking something similar, but for this product and service, it felt like the clients would have a hard time trusting them as it was not related to anything feminine at all. At some point, people would question about why they have so many women engineers and if they are really sacrificing the quality of hires to hire women. The company just ended up announcing that they have to cease operations as a major investor and client pulled out, and they could not find a replacement funding right after the release of their final initial prototype of what their team was working on. I reminded my wife of what I said, but she got mad at me instead of acknowledging it to the point of tears. Am I the jerk here? Alright, folks, what do you think? Jerk or not the jerk for saying, I told you so?
Major jerk here. I mean, it sounds like your wife is going through a rough situation, and instead of consoling her and being like, oh, I'm so sorry, honey, you're like, remember how I told you to go work with all the dudes because we all know dudes are trustworthy? You can't trust women. Nobody trusts women.
So, I think that OP made a lot of mistakes here, and I think the biggest mistake is being like, I told you so. And I think that nobody wants to hear I told you so, especially when they're down. You kicked your wife while she was down. And I think that isn't really how you treat someone who you love or you allegedly love, right? As for the comments about whether or not this should have been a woman-owned company or not, I think that that's all superficial dressing, right? Companies fail and succeed all the time, and oh, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, well, in startups especially, like the first few years for a startup, any startup run by any set of people, you can very quickly things can go wrong and it can go under.
Yeah, and I think that they wanted to have an environment that was, mostly made up of women engineers, and whether that's right or wrong isn't really for me to judge, but it's more or less something that they wanted to have. That's the environment they wanted to have. And unfortunately, there are a lot of male engineers out there who can make women uncomfortable. Not all, but there are a lot who have a reputation for making women uncomfortable.
Especially in predominantly male-run spaces, like being the only woman in a team of men, there's so much like implicit sexism that can go on. Like not even necessarily, there's overt stuff too, but even a lot of well-intentioned people like can just leave women out entirely because they assume, oh well, you wouldn't like this sort of thing, and like there's all kinds of implicit things that can happen.
Yeah, so I do think that this is kind of one of the situations where she wanted to go to an environment where she thought that she would be happier and that she would be more comfortable. It didn't matter so much about whether or not there was the job security there or not. She, felt that this was the right pick for her, and that's a big important step when you're looking for a job, is to feel a job and figure out whether or not you will fit in this environment.
Yeah.
And she didn't seem to think that she was going to fit in the other environment as much as she fit in this one. And you can't blame her for going and pursuing a job that she believed in. And I think she believed in the job, she believed in the product, she thought it was going to do well, and I don't think that you can blame anybody for taking a job like that.
Yeah, and I mean, it would have been different too if the conversation was just about like, oh, this one company has more stability. But OP seems to be harping on the idea that, oh, they hire 40% women, so clearly no one's going to take them seriously because they're not in fashion.
Yeah.
And like, I think OP really needs to check his attitudes. And maybe there are a lot of people with his kind of sexist mindset, but like that shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't see 40% women on a team and be like, oh no, clearly this is bad because lady brains can't do engineering.
So that actually is a really good point, and I had forgotten how high percentage it was. And so if it's only 40%, that's not even half of their workforce, right?
Mm-hmm.
And women engineers are as good as men engineers, right? And to say that they're sacrificing quality of engineers to hire women, I don't think is necessarily right, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are fewer women engineers, yes, but they still graduated college. They still got their degrees. They're still good quality engineers.
Yeah.
So I don't think that the case is like, ah, you're hiring unqualified people. Oftentimes it's about the training, the education that you have inside of the job and your motivation while you're there, and not so much about whether you're from Harvard or, Yale or wherever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Scary Butterscotch 474 says, "You're the jerk." What? That could have happened to any new company. Somehow you wrote the whole post about how women are inferior software engineers and that the company would have done better if some men were in charge. It's men like you who cause women to found women-only companies so that they do not have to deal with you. And OP replies, "I never said that they were inferior software engineers. That's not true. But in the business world, if you spend all of your resources marketing that you are women owned, it doesn't look good unless you are making a period tracking app or something like that. The perception might be unfair, but it's an unfortunate reality. Just like in some places, it's harder for women to get elected to office, especially younger ones." And I don't want to argue, says, "Who doesn't it look good to? Looks great to me as a customer, regardless of the product." And OP replies, "The investment world of venture capital, etc., is very male dominated, as is the industry of the product that this business was trying to enter."
Well, but the only way things are going to change is if people actually make companies and challenge the norm. And so I applaud OP's wife and the others for trying to enter this tough field.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a good point. And I mean, again, change happens slowly, and it happens because people are willing to try to make the changes.
And to just be like, oh, well, women shouldn't even try because they're not taken seriously. That's the guaranteed way to make it so women never get into these industries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people have been saying that for ages. And there are so many fields now that, 50 years ago, women can't do that. And now look, women are there.
Yeah. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, "Am I the jerk for not telling my daughter that she's autistic?" I have two daughters, a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old. The subject is of the 16-year-old. She was diagnosed autistic when she was 5, but I never told her about it. I don't want her to label herself, as she can be really capable. When she was little, I tried therapy for her motor skills, but unfortunately the therapy didn't help her out much. Seeing another girl in her grade, who everyone knew was autistic, get excluded and treated differently by everyone else, I believe that I made the right decision for my daughter and not telling the school. My daughter is not popular, but she has a few friends and is not systematically excluded. Her younger sister has been saying that my 16-year-old is autistic quite a lot lately. I do not know where she got that from, and I have put a stop to her saying it. Although I have never told my 13-year-old about her sister's condition, she is adamant that her sister is autistic and thinks that others should know. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
Yeah, you're being the jerk here, OP. Like, people are entitled to know their medical conditions. And I think it's really cruel to keep from someone, like, if you know that someone is autistic or has another disability, it's not fair to keep that from them.
I mean, I think it's tricky, and because in some places it's still stigmatized a lot, and I don't think that OP was in the right, mind you, but I do think that they were hoping that their daughter wouldn't be persecuted or, treated differently. But it really depends, right? Like, maybe she needs to be treated differently to a degree, right? Maybe she needs extra help in certain areas, and it's important that she gets the help in those areas that she's deficient in, and so that she has a better chance at succeeding.
Well, and that's the thing, exactly. Like, I'm someone who, even with autism, the traditional public school system, for the most part, I was really good at. But one place where I consistently struggled was with oral exams. And if I'd had accommodations for those, I might have been able to do better. And so I just wonder, like, if there are areas where she struggles with like tests or anything like that, where some accommodations might make it a little easier for her and she wouldn't have to like struggle as much.
Yeah, and I think that's really key. And the thing is that sometimes when you ask a fish to climb a tree,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to be able to do that because they don't have the right tools to do that. But if you ask a fish to swim, they're going to be able to do a great job at that.
Yeah, well, and the public school system is designed with a very narrow set of learners in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of people it fails. It's hard to make the systematic changes we need. And one of the ways to do that right now is that people with disabilities are able to get IEP and 504 plans and get accommodations to kind of give them a little bit more of an equal playing field.
Yeah. And I kind of want to make two additional points here. I kind of want to talk about a couple of things here. Like, first, the sister
Hmm.
and how she noticed this, and then also how this other person was persecuted, the other autistic person. And so I think, like, the first, the sister, she figured this out,
Hmm.
right? And if she figured this out, then there's a good chance that other classmates have figured this out as well.
Yeah, and that makes me wonder the how noticeable her autism is because like I'm someone who fell under the radar for a very long time. If it's this obvious, it makes me wonder if she has more struggles that OP overlooks because they don't want to think of their daughter as disabled and they want to hide her from this label.
Yeah, and I think that's really unfortunate if she does show strong, autistic traits that she definitely like may need some help with. And there's no shame in getting additional help for, something like autism, right? And I think that's really unfortunate that this is something that she hasn't been able to get the exact help that she needs.
Yeah, and I think the sister though does need to be reined in that like it's nobody's business if she's autistic other than her own. So the sister's whole people need to know they don't have a right to know. The
Hmm.
daughter has a right to know and to do with that information as she wishes, but no one else has a right to know.
Yeah. As for the school and them treating this other autistic person badly, I think that shows that the school isn't a very good education system, right?
Hmm.
Like, if no one's putting an end to this exclusion of this other autistic child, that's not good.
Yeah, but there's also no guarantee that it's purely because she has a diagnosis. Kids are mean to kids who are different. And if she has a formal diagnosis, there's a good chance that, especially because, well, I forgot if they said it was a girl or a boy. I thought it was a girl.
I thought it
But
was a girl as well.
especially for girls, getting autism diagnoses are harder, so that you tend to have more pronounced traits. They're not probably going off the label so much as her differences.
Yeah.
And so thinking, oh well, if she just doesn't have this label that will shelter her, is not necessarily the right form of logic. But these kids absolutely should not be allowed to get away with bullying and excluding another child.
Yeah,
Whatever
well, oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, regardless of which way.
Yeah, well, what I'm worried about more is the teachers treating the students differently,
Hmm.
right? And there are still some people who associate autism with not being intelligent.
Yeah.
And so if the teachers immediately assume that, oh, this kid's autistic and they can't succeed, let's just throw them into the bottom of the barrel classes and just push them through, that's not a good education system either, right?
No, it's not. And that is a area that is a real struggle. We're kind of in a growth phase, and I think more in the past, especially when we knew less about autism, that was a more likely occurrence where autistic kids would be sidelined because people assumed they weren't capable.
Yeah.
But hopefully, as more people with lower support needs get diagnoses and are more visible, we'll be able to start breaking those stereotypes.
Yeah. So as it stands right now, I have a hard time faulting OP because I think that they really did want to do what was best for their child. I can understand why they hid this information if they thought that it was going to negatively impact their education. I think that, though, they really need to talk to their daughter and come clean about this and say, yes, you were diagnosed with autism. If you want, we can, arrange some additional help for you. But I made a decision and I tried my best to give you the best opportunity to succeed. And if, I'm sorry if this caused you any distress.
Yeah, well, I come from the perspective of someone with a late autism diagnosis, and like when I was in elementary school, I was in speech and language therapy because of my social difficulties. And if I found out that my parents, I don't think hid anything from me, but if I found out that they had been hiding my autism diagnosis from me, and then I had to go through all the trouble of getting an evaluation on my own and everything, that would be really frustrating. So I definitely think OP should come clean sooner than later.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. Alright folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here. And Amber, she has a joke.
Why is pizza so flashy?
Well, pizza isn't normally flashy, but when you throw all kinds of glitter on it and then you shine a light at it, it becomes flashy.
Oh no, you don't even have to throw glitter at it.
Yeah?
Because you can't spell pizzazz without pizza.
You can. I spell pizzazz, Pizzoa.
No, that's not how you spell it. And if you remove the pizza, you're left with a real snore.
Oh yeah.
Well, what's pizzazz minus pizza?
Nope, I'm not even humoring you in this joke.
I thought it was clever. I was really proud of this one.
It's a good joke. It's a good joke.
And there's a sparkle pizza here.
Yes, that sparkle, the pizza I drew, Amber added the sparkles. I did not make a sparkle pizza. And I have Earl Grey. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy special Sunday! Folks, you know what makes it special? You do. And Amber too.
And you.
Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance. And please, have it in the form of a haiku.
If you do donuts with your girlfriend's card, then you can expect to pay.
That is a good haiku. I think that works very well. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye!